Hello, and welcome back to thoughtbot Rails Development Live. It's been a few weeks since I've been here. Life sort of got in the way. I got sick, and then we had Thanksgiving, and then got busy with stuff. But today I'm excited. I'm joined by Stephanie Min. Stephanie, welcome.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
And Stephanie, you're not only a developer at thoughtbot, but you're also a Bike Shed co-host, and I am an avid listener of the Bike Shed, so thanks for joining me.
Yeah, when you first said hello and welcome to, I, in my head, just automatically filled it with to the Bike Shed, a weekly podcast.
Ching, 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 ching.
Yeah.
Well, we had Joelle on a couple of months ago now, so eventually we'll have to get the three of us on together, and we can recreate a live pairing session for the Bike Shed. So we are going to resume something that I was working on the stream a few, I guess last time that I streamed, and that is the staffing needs in our internal system called Hub. And I'm going to share my screen now. This is the system, and what we've been doing is we have a scheduling system internal to thoughtbot, and it has it's used for all of our scheduling internally, and it ties into our CRM. So when we have a new project that we're going to work on, that project knows, like, okay, it's going to be 3 people, it's Rails development for 12 weeks. And what happens now is a Basecamp to-do item gets created to say, like, identify and schedule the right people on the project. And but it's just a to-do item, and there's no like shortcuts for scheduling or anything like that. And so that's what we're doing now. We're calling it staffing needs. Over the last 2 streams where we worked on this, we sort of sketched it out and started to implement. And then in the middle stream, we made further implementation progress. So let's go over where we're at right now. So we have our scheduling view, and there is a pending staffing need. So we get a little call out here, one project with staffing needs. And we click into that. And we have React for online ordering. So in this case, the project name that needs a person is called online ordering, and the skill is React for 12 weeks starting on January 1st. So you click into it and you can see the project and the skills. In this case, it's just one, when it starts, how long, and you can comment and have a discussion about, about the scheduling task. And then when you can also edit it if something changes and you say, oh, actually it's more time, or the date changed or whatever, and you can manually mark it as done. So like it's like, oh, that need ended up falling through, or we schedule it outside of using the staffing need or something like that. You can manually mark it as done. Otherwise, you can click on create assignment, and it's going to take you to the form to create an assignment. This is a form that existed before we made this feature, but what is happening now is it's automatically populating it with the project and the start date and the number of new date, the number of weeks out. You can see that's all being passed in the params up here. I realize I never stopped the music. I'm going to stop the music now.
Sounds good.
That's all being passed in the params up there. And so let's just, I forget, to be perfectly honest, I forget whether now when you schedule this, it marks it as done. So let's find out together whether that's finished or not. So I'm going to click on create assignments for Aaron Labadie scheduled on the project.
So I had a question.
Yeah.
While we were looking at the staffing needs, each line item, is that basically just for one person? So if you had a need for 2 people with React skills, would you have seen an additional staffing need in the list?
Yeah, and right now it doesn't do any grouping, but what I'm expecting is it will group by project. So it'll say like online ordering and then, individual lines for each sort of person slot on the project. So that answered the question. It says 0 projects with staffing needs. So it is automatically marking the staffing need as filled once it's filled.
Cool. Could we check out that index again? Oh yeah, you got it.
Yeah. And then there's also a view all button where you can say, show me everything versus show me the pending ones.
Nice.
So that's where we're at. I think based on where we're at, I think the next thing we need to do, there's nothing that creates staffing needs. There's no UI for creating a staffing need. But the primary flow is when something closes in the CRM as one. We're going to actually, if we go over to, they're called opportunities. And we have like an analogous thing called estimates on this project. And we can say, okay, we've got one slot for a Rails developer, another slot for a designer, another slot for an iOS developer, 4 days per week for a certain number of weeks. So it's analogous to the staffing needs. And so when this opportunity is marked 1, we're going to loop through the estimates on the project and create staffing needs based on those estimates. I think that's the next thing we'll want to do. And that will also replace where we're creating the Basecamp to-do item. Sound good?
Yeah. Sorry, let me just repeat what I think I heard you say. So when an estimate is created, that's when we would want to create the staffing need?
No, so you build up a bunch of estimates on the project, which outlines, on the opportunity, which outlines what the project would look like for staffing. But we want to record that. And then when the opportunity gets won, like when we actually win and we have a signed contract, then that's going to trigger looping through the staffing needs and looping through the estimates and creating corresponding staffing needs for that.
Got it. And the opportunity is one in the CRM?
It is in the CRM, and there's a webhook that posts here to mark it as one. Good question. And, I thought about whether we wanted to the estimates and staffing needs are super similar. And I think this is one of those things where you could also implement this so that staffing needs and estimates are actually the same object or model. And the reason why I decided to not do that for a couple different reasons, but the overriding reason is I've learned over time, especially if you have something that might change later in the process, and it is possible that like we win a project, we expect it's going to be 12 weeks, and then once we actually go to staff it, it changes a little bit. If you have it be the same model, then you lose that historical context of what it was, and it can actually create errors too. And I first learned this, I remember a long time ago, we were implementing an e-commerce system, and there was one address model, and when you were placing an order, it would associate the user's address with that order. And then if someone had to go in and either the user changed their address, they placed an order for a certain address, and they're like, I placed that order, okay, I'm placing a new order, and my next order needs to go to like this other place where I'm going to be in a few weeks, and they place that order, and there's only one address model. Then when they edit their address, it changes the one for the order that hasn't been fulfilled yet. So I remember working on that system, and that was the first time I learned that lesson, that a little bit of duplication there actually makes a lot of sense because they're actually separate. Like the address that the order is going to is different than the user's actual address.
Yeah, that makes sense, where an estimate is kind of like what you think might be the case for the project pretty early in the process. And then by the time you're staffing it, you kind of have more information about what you're actually committing to.
Yeah. but they're super similar down to the estimates even having an association with a person, which is basically tentative scheduling. It's like, we think this person might work on it. So, so yeah, and we're going to need to take that into account as we go through the estimates. They might have people associated with them, and we want to carry that over to the staffing need as like, hey, you could quick schedule this person that was tentatively scheduled on it, but we don't want that staffing need to think that it's filled when it has an association with a person yet. Okay, so this is a long. So one of the things I started this stream, but we've got a few more. Well, I mentioned when I started the stream, but we've got a few more people watching now. So I'll say it again. I started working on this about a month ago. Then I got sick, and then Thanksgiving happened, and it's not a super high priority, like, finish this right now kind of thing. And so we haven't worked on it for several weeks. And I remember in the last stream, I think I said something like, oh, if I were to keep on working this, I'd probably finish it in a day or two. And it's been more than a month now. And so I think we find ourselves in a situation that a lot of people find themselves in, which is we've got a long running feature branch now that has lasted a lot longer than we originally anticipated it. And I actually haven't touched this since the last time we worked on it, which was on the stream. So we've got main has continued to progress. I did check out the branch and migrate it. So there are changes to the schema. So let's just look at those, I guess. Yeah, so some new fields have been added, which aren't in our branch. Another group of people working on some things introduced Flipper for feature flags because they were working on some things and wanted to gate it by a feature flag. We didn't have that previously. And I also made it so that we use friendly ID on this project to get URLs that are like based on the name of the person or whatever. And I introduced the feature of that gem that makes it so you can rename a slug and it redirects previous slugs to the new slug, and that introduced a new table. This is just going to be, just because this happens, it ends up moving some things around in the schema. Those are new columns for effective weekly rate, which is something that you're working on this week. Okay, so that happened in our branch. I forget, do we want to stash this and then rebase, or do we want to commit and then I think we want to commit and then rebase. Right? Oh, is that what you'd do?
So you migrated on this branch.
I migrated on this branch, yeah. Should I not have migrated on this branch? I think it will be okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be fine.
Okay. Oops.
I feel like I always, if I'm trying to rebase some stuff that had migrations, just kind of don't worry too much about it and then migrate at the very end.
Yes, I should have done that. I just didn't realize as I was doing it that that's what we were going to do. So I accidentally left off the -I for an interactive rebase, so that's why I aborted the rebase, and you can do it again. So this is what we've done so far. We began adding staffing needs. Here's the migrations that I just committed and the stuff in between. Okay. Okay. So in this case, I am gonna I am gonna use Visual Studio to look at some of these, in particular because I noticed as I was even just looking at it in the diff, we want to keep both of these changes because we added just this sort of. We'll eventually change this potentially so that it's not all, but we added this population of staffing needs. But in the meantime, in main, another group of people working on something added rotation requests, which are actually, it's all part of like one big thing we're doing to like have our scheduling improved. But so we want to keep both of these. So I want to accept both changes, and that's a little bit easier to do quickly in the editor.
Yeah, I use that feature too. And I think we have a comment from Carlos.
Oh. Yeah, Carlos asks, are we using MVC or is the front end using some JavaScript framework? We're using Stimulus and Turbo. And so we are using JavaScript, but it's primarily server-side rendered Rails pages that are loaded dynamically with Turbo, which would be the Rails default now. And as you can see, as we use it, it leads to a pretty responsive thing without a lot of additional overhead from a more complex front end. I've been adjusting the size of this, and now it's been messed up. This always confuses me, to be perfectly honest. I always end up, I feel like 50% of the time, which makes sense because there's two options, 50% of the time choose the wrong one.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Is I'm like, well, I can ignore it till I migrate at the end, and it'll figure out the right date.
There are no other changes because we already did this. So I think what we want is the later date.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because that's today's date and it's when I migrated. Oh, that's actually the end of the changes.
Oh, that's not too bad.
No, that's not bad at all. So add them and then continue. Oh, that was only the first commit. So for some reason, maybe because I was moving things around, I'm not sure. I am so used to being able to click on this file and it's not working. Well, that's an interesting change.
Oh, yeah.
I think I actually did this change and I don't remember. Okay, yes. Range start and range end are coming in from this as arguments. And the bug I was fixing was we were previously using starts on and ends on, which is in the reservation itself. And we really needed it to come from the arguments in order to be in the right time range. There are accompanying specs with the bug fix and everything. So we want to accept the current change. Why doesn't that show up as the incoming? Oh, incoming change. Yeah, okay.
That was a bug that you fixed in the staffing needs work?
No, in the main branch. Okay. This is the same thing as before. We want to, but now see, this changed it to pending. So we need to keep that. And we need to another change to I think I can continue.
Yep.
The commit here is interesting. It's saying fix merge conflict. That's why these things don't make sense to me, because I'm like, why? Those are existing columns. Why are we? Okay. I think we want to accept both changes, but I want to see whether Freshworks ID is actually somewhere else in the. It's not. Okay. I think we're almost done.
Cool.
We added Mastodon to the profiles of users in the system. See, there's Slug here and here, but there's also Mastodon here and here. So that's going to be a problem. I think that means we don't want any of these changes.
Yeah, or you could take incoming, and then I think they won't be duplicated.
Okay, cool. So now let's hope that our tests pass. Nope. We messed something up. Wow. That was exciting.
A big chunk of red.
Can't modify frozen array. There's something fundamentally broken.
This is pretty opaque to me.
Let's try bundling. That's not going to help. It didn't do anything. But I'm going to try again just because. Okay. Wow. Can't modify frozen array in Fig environment, line 5. And then Rails helper, line 16. These both are not going to be helpful. This is where the stream is saying, look at them sweat.
I know.
What's going on? I have no idea what's going on. So this kind of thing, there's got to be a...
I guess from here, what I would try would be to check out main and see if you can run the tests.
Yeah, and that's going to work. Okay, I'm not going to push this branch up to there. I'm just going to leave it here.
Okay.
Well, that's both good and bad. So I think my guess would be that there's that we missed, that we accidentally introduced a typo somewhere. So I don't want to lose. I'm just thinking, if we make a new, I was going to say, what I want to see is I want to see the diff of this branch versus main now. How do I do that? What I would normally do is push up to GitHub and look at it there.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to mess up the branch.
Yeah. It sounded like you were saying you were thinking about creating a new branch, just like a temporary thing for us to push. Yep.
We don't need to create a pull request. We can just look. So now I'm just looking to see whether there's something obvious in terms of something that is a bad merge into like a config file, or I'm pausing on routes because that would be something that's loaded right at the base of stuff. It looks okay to me. Factories would also potentially, wow. There's no way that this is all being added. The factories were all extracted to their own files. Like here, factory bot define factory for registration with code audit and job title CEO, and see how it's now in here. So that's something where that file got added back. See, in main, that file is completely gone. So I'm going to remove that.
Sounds good.
Oh, but did I add staffing needs? Yeah. We'll just grab that.
Do you think you added any other staffing need related factories?
I don't think so. It's too late now, though, because I already closed the file.
Well, it's still on GitHub if you want to check it out.
Yeah.
But
I don't think I did. Nothing's
Cool.
jumping out at me. Yeah, no, that's all that I notice.
Sweet. Looks good.
Okay. I'm not sure that that's the problem yet, so I'm just gonna finish. Okay. I didn't notice a problem with that factories file, so yeah. Okay, so we could okay, so we have our rebase branch, right? We can go back to the other branch. We can get rid of the rebase and see whether the specs pass there or not.
Okay.
I just reset.
I don't know. I
That's
think
not gonna work.
I wonder if this is a reflog situation.
Yeah, maybe. Well, do you want to try it?
I guess we could look at it. And so I guess in my head, what I'm thinking is if we look at the reflog and try to find where we started the rebase and check back out to there, because I think all of the current commits, we don't know where. But I like, yeah, it's all kind of, the changes from main are all kind of mixed up.
Yep. Okay, what should I do?
Oh gosh, this is usually where I need to look it up. But if you just type that, what does that give you? Okay, yeah, cool. So I'm looking for the beginning of the rebase.
And feel free to take the keyboard if you want.
Actually, can you pause there?
Yep.
I thought I saw something. I see this like rebase start. Okay, maybe this one. Did you see my circle? 5FF, yeah.
Yeah.
And I am not sure, but I think you might be able to check out to that, and then we can try running.
Okay, so that's running.
Okay, so it was something that happened in our rebase.
So
I wonder, we could go through each of these and run rake and see. We might be able to find the commit that was the issue. Or actually, I don't even think we need to do it from reflog. We could do it from the regular git log.
I'm just looking. There's, see how these all happen together? Oh, I see. So that actually was the base of staffing needs.
Yeah.
Okay. So the ones that we would want to go through are right here.
I think so. Do you want us to start like from the middle?
Yeah.
Cool.
This one is suspect to me, this fix merge conflict.
Yeah, I agree. I was about to say that one too.
So should we try that one or should we try the one before it?
Oh, yeah, let's try the one before it. Or, oh, yeah.
Oh,
no, that's
okay.
fine too. Either one's. There's not too many. I don't think it'll take too long.
Okay, that has the problem. And then the one before it is this one.
Cool. So if this one works, then we can dig into that fix merge conflicts commit.
It didn't work.
Our manual binary search happening over here.
Okay, it still has the problem. Stephanie.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna make an executive decision and say we should back this out.
Okay.
How do I get back to just the staffing needs branch before I haven't pushed yet?
This is usually where I would probably delete my local branch and just
yes, I was. That is what I would do as well.
Cool. I feel kind of validated that some of my like what I perceived as were like, I don't know, maybe not the best way to do things, but it's not even quite the nuclear
easy
option.
Path. It's the easy path.
The easy path.
Okay, just double check what I'm doing. I'm not deleting the remote branch. I'm deleting the local branch when I do this. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm going to get, actually I have an alias grb. Actually, it's track. Okay. So this is before the rebase. And so let's run rake. If it has the problem, I'm going to be upset. Okay, good. We're passing now. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why you do not keep long-running feature branches around. Because what seems like a simple rebase is going to cause you trouble. Okay, how do we not do the same mistake again?
Are we trying to rebase main still and hopefully get...
I think we need to, yeah.
Okay. Can
we take it more slowly somehow?
Yeah, I was going to say that it's hard because we don't know where the issue happened. So we could just try again and be a little more meticulous, and we could run rake after every step too.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, the other thing we could do is not migrate.
Yeah, that's actually what I was just thinking as well. I don't think you had that migrate commit on here anyway.
I didn't, but my database is going to be migrated.
I see.
Well, I can just... Wait, why? Oh, that's right. Someone's working on this. Other people are doing work. How dare they? Okay. Actually, is there an alias to reset that basically does all those things?
I think it might be DB reset, but we got there.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm doing the dev prime task on main just so... Oh, and it does that. And I'm remembering now that dev prime task is really slow because it's doing a lot. Well, thanks everybody for watching. We hope you are enjoying our rebase journey so far while this runs. If you have any questions for us, feel free to drop them in the chat. If we're stuck and you think you see what the problem might be, definitely drop that in the chat as well. We can always use your help. And yeah, just to recap for anybody who's just joined, this is an internal application that we have at thoughtbot. It manages, we call it Hub because it sort of sits in the center of a lot of other systems that we use. And also, so it does all our scheduling, team profiles, financial stuff. And it's sort of a glue between a bunch of different systems, from the finance systems to the sales systems to different client project systems, that kind of thing. What else does it do, Stephanie? Those are the big things.
Yeah, that sounds right. It has our internal messaging.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yep. So we can post announcements and messages and that kind of thing. I shouldn't have run this task. Well, we're going to need to run it anyway, but let's actually dev.rake, development seeds.rake. So it uses FactoryBot and Faker to create a bunch of objects for development, but it creates a lot of people, then creates reservations, which are time off for people, and then abilities, which relate to skills, and then it creates, for each of the teams created, it creates a bunch of people and gives them those skills, and then it creates an opportunity and a bunch of estimates on that opportunity, and then a bunch of projects. There we go, it finished. Okay, so now we want to check out staffing needs.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not going to migrate. And we're going to rake and see whether it passes or not. It should pass. I'm not expecting it not to. Okay. Oh, okay. So now we're going to start the rebase again.
Do you remember at the beginning of it when we were saying, oh, like, should we have migrated? And we are like, oh, it'll be fine.
Yeah. But we don't know that that was the problem.
It's true.
Okay. So now we have schedule controller. So we need to resolve these conflicts. Accept both changes here. Accept both changes here.
So I think if there's no other conflicts in this file, I'm realizing now maybe what we want is actually the November date, because we are like at that point in history.
I think that that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you see spec factories was deleted by us.
Oh.
But it's there because staffing need was. So we need to spec factories staffing need.rb.
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know that that's the problem that we didn't resolve before.
Uh-huh.
But that's what we need, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then we do want to
delete that. Cool.
So now we've resolved the conflicts and we want to run rake. And we want it to work.
Ideally.
In an ideal world, it would work. Okay. So
I think this is fine.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
Cool.
So now I'm going to add and continue the rebase. Actually, let me see what. Okay. I'm pausing a very long time looking at this change. Why does it say it's the current change? Current change. is current main? Or is current our branch?
No, I
I've
think
confused
current
my-
is our branch.
Okay. So let's go to, okay, this is the reservation model.
See what's on main.
Yeah. Boy, we've yeah. It's okay. It's okay. I'm saying this for myself as opposed to
Real Rails development.
yeah. Live real Rails development where you bang your head against a rebase for 45 minutes. Okay. What was the method here? Overlapping. Okay, so it's range start and range end. But you see, it's a different implementation.
Actually, you want 139.
Oh, you're right. Okay, it's range start and range end. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay.
Yeah, and then we got a comment from Robert.
Yes, thank you, Robert.
Cool.
That wording always confuses me though, and it's easy to like get in your head about it and be like, do I know what this means? I'm not sure I know what it means. And then okay, oh, we want to rake. I forgot what we were doing at first. Now it's going to complain about a bunch of migrations. But I'm assuming that's okay. We're assuming that's okay.
Yeah, I would be interested in just running the migration on the test database at the end. Cool. Looks good.
Because the error that was happening before was it couldn't even load the Rails environment, right? So it wouldn't be complaining about migrations not being run if that was still happening. So, okay. These, I think we want both changes. That also wouldn't be the cause of a problem like we were having anyway. So we're back at this fixed merge conflict. We gotta look at this one closely.
Yeah. Agreed.
It didn't actually conflict. Let's see if it. Okay. So we're back. So we're back at everything's rebased. now we migrate. And now we rake. And along the way, this is going to work, and we're not going to have known why it's not working.
Nice.
Because we just did, as far as I know, exactly, except for the migration.
Are we done with the rebase? I saw some more commits left.
We're back. There's nothing. Oh, this is just after the migration. It looks to me like it's just moving a couple things around, which is very annoying. I hate when that happens.
Me too.
Okay, I'm going to commit this.
Let's do it.
Okay, we got let's go back to our browser. And we now no longer have that. We dropped the database, so the staffing need that was there before, it's no longer there. So even if we click on view all, it's not there, but that's okay. We don't need it right now. What we're doing is we're going to make it so that when this opportunity is marked as 1, these estimates are converted into staffing needs. So I have the context to know that this happens stemming from a job that kicks off when an opportunity is marked as 1, called create client and project. And it's like so here's where the project is built. So I think it's project services. So we have these classes in this application that, it's not a service object, really. It's the reason why it's called services, excuse me, is because it is responsible for telling other services about the creation or updating of a project. In this case, the add scheduling to do item is a background job to create a scheduling to do in Basecamp. So this is where we want to replace that. So I think we want to, so what I'm going to do is bring up the project services spec. And here's where we have a spec for adding the customer success checklist. Oh, that is a outdated doc string. But that's where it happens. So here we're just expecting that job is called. So I think we want the new creation of the estimates. Sorry, of the
staffing
needs. It could either be in a background job, or it doesn't need to be because this is already in a background job. But either way, we're going to introduce some class that is responsible. I think we're going to introduce a class that's responsible for creating staffing needs from estimates. We already have opportunity jobs. So it's actually pretty straightforward to just create a job that does that, and it'll be like a 1-for-1 swap in to the Basecamp to do job. So I'm inclined to do that. Does that sound okay with you?
Yeah, I think so. This Basecamp job, create scheduling to do, that's already a background job. Is that what you
Yeah.
said? Okay.
So if we just created like an opportunity job, and then we say create
Staffing
needs,
nice.
then that's pretty like an analogous like sort of swap in for the functionality that we're replacing.
Cool.
And we run that, and it's going to fail because that doesn't exist yet. I'm just now, as that's running, I'm just going through and looking. Yeah. So it does not happen on, so adds the, and then it doesn't happen when a project is just updated. So it does not. Okay, so uninitialized constant opportunity job create staffing needs. That is what we expect. I'm realizing I didn't need to add job at the end of that file name. Oh, my click is working again. Hooray.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm going to write the specs for this first. Okay, what are we going to do here? We are going to for an opportunity with estimates, it creates staffing needs for each estimate. So let's see what Copilot is going to do for us here. Creating an opportunity, it creates an estimate for that opportunity. And then it calls perform now. Okay, this is not the spec that we want, but we can use it to help type faster for us. Okay, so when we create the estimate, we want to set some things on it because we want to make sure that the staffing need reflects the same thing. And I prefer not to assume things in the factory are like, in my opinion, it's better to set it in the spec if we're depending on it in the spec. So what were the other things? An estimate is associated with an opportunity. It has skills. It has weeks. Let's just go over to the It has a, okay, project is going to be created. And it has the start date.
Would that come from the project?
That's a good point. Project services, create project. Yeah, so the project start date is set from the opportunity start date. So we'll be able to just take the So I think that might be for the estimate. So now what we're saying is by the time this job gets called, an opportunity is going to be Is that actually how the statuses are? No. It's going to be 1, and it's going to have a project. And then the project it has a that's an interesting date. Don't know why I chose that one, but okay. I think this might be everything. And so now if we give it an opportunity, the opportunity is associated with the project. It has the estimates. Okay, so now when that happens, the count can be 1, but does a staffing need even have a association with an estimate? No, it doesn't. So the way that I would write this would be opportunity staffing needs dot first to have attributes. Yeah. And so we want, so
Actually,
what were you saying?
Do you mind if I pause you here? I think a staffing need might only be associated to a project.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. So the skill should be the skill. The weeks should be the weeks. And actually, as a start date should be start date. And I'm realizing as the weeks came up, that's not the attribute on estimate. If I remember right, I think we recently changed. Yeah, it's quantity, because it could be hours, weeks, months now, and so the attribute was named quantity, which also means that this is not as straightforward. Okay, cool. That's going to be a complexity that we're going to need to. So for this, it's quantity. Quantity is 12, but then billing type is weekly, I think is what it's called. Yeah. So that works for this because it's 12 weeks, but we are going to need to really make it work properly. We need to also account when it's not weekly but hourly. So this quantity field could be oh wait, no, because hourly would still be that number of weeks, and then there's a separate attribute for hours per week, if I remember right. Let's just write this for this common case, and then we'll deal with it more. Actually, let's look at it while I'm curious now. So and then yeah. So it's so if we go to edit here, we can see what the UI looks like. So we have weekly for days per week and a number of weeks. So then if we change it to hourly, it's just how many hours total and what the rate is. So, it might be $100, $110 an hour and then there'll be like, hey, we estimate a total of 200 hours. And so then when it comes to scheduling that, it's going to be a little trickier than just weekly.
Yep.
But that is a later problem. That is not a now problem. So we've got expected opportunity job create staffing needs to define that, but it didn't. That's because it doesn't. We have to. I think we have a special. Yeah. Oh, I figured it out. It's safer job.
Whoa.
Okay, I'm not going to take that. That's way too much. That is probably incorrect. Okay, we are going to take an opportunity. And so minimum to make this spec pass, we're going to and for each one, we are going to create a staffing need. We're going to assign the skill. The weeks is the quantity. The start date is that. That looks correct to me.
Could you, I have a question. Why would an opportunity have multiple estimates?
Because each estimate is like a slot for a person in the same way that a staffing need is a slot for a person.
I see. Yeah, okay. I remember that at the beginning we were talking about how they were analogous. Cool.
Yeah. And then this is going to be project dot
we don't have project yet.
You're right. opportunity.project staffing needs create. And then it's actually skills. And I'm wondering, oh yeah, we set it to that, but we didn't. Let's run this spec again, see. So undefined method start date for project. This is the problem with Copilot. It lulls you into a false sense of security around what it's auto-completing.
I think it's actually on the end of the line.
Yeah.
In the application code in our create staffing needs class. Yeah, right there.
Oh, yeah. Do you remember what it is on
staffing
need?
It starts on. I also have the code pulled up on my computer over here.
Oh, I see how it is. Undefined method start date for project on, up here. Okay, that's different. Undefined method staffing needs for project. So it's possible, since we haven't needed to go through project yet to do staffing needs, that reverse association isn't actually there. If we look at the staffing need, it belongs to a project, but if we look at the project, I bet there's no mention of staff. Yeah, we haven't needed that yet. So I'm gonna add that. If the project were destroyed, yes, we would want that. But we need to make sure that we...
Nice.
Okay. So now if we go back to here and run this again, it actually might pass, but we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so we have a spec where we have an opportunity with an estimate. We run the job. It creates staffing needs based on that estimate. So I like to I'm having some thoughts about what we need to cover here. So I'm just going to write when the estimate has someone tentatively assigned, and when the estimate is for hourly billing, and when the estimate is for monthly billing. Yes.
And then did I also see there was a one-time billing option as well?
Yeah, you're right. And you know what? We have no ability to do one-time billing on a project.
Okay. Great.
So that's actually a ticket in the backlog to add that capability. But Yeah, so that's just not going to make a staffing need.
Cool.
I think, for right now. But that's a good catch. Did you catch anything else that we might want to?
I think that was it.
Okay. So here, I'm just going to copy this. It assigns the person to the staffing need. Which is not done. This is sort of a weird, I mean, it's an obvious spec. But we didn't actually, we might as well throw in done false here. And then here, so I don't know how you feel about this, but at this point, I'm just testing a very specific thing. So I would be inclined to take more of the things from the factory since the spec doesn't, and I would simplify the setup. Does that sound okay with you?
Yeah, that does.
Because the other things don't actually. So it'd be like, now we have a.
Got it. So we wouldn't really care about the other attributes.
That's what I would do.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think I also always get a little bit unsure of like, oh, should I pull this out into its own, like it block, or can I like shove it all in one?
Yeah, and I think especially since we're writing these from scratch, you could totally make the case that we should just add a person up here and include it in the spec. But it's a very specific like thing to this app. Oh, well, I don't know. It seems like it's a standalone thing to me.
Yeah. I think that makes sense because it's like there will be ones where there hasn't been a person tentatively staffed, and then it's a kind of a different special case.
And we also like didn't consider it as the default, and we got that spec to pass, and now we didn't create any staffing needs. Oh, because I didn't associate the estimate. I accidentally deleted. Okay, so undefined method person for staffing need. And that is because staffing needs do not have people because they're not supposed to have people yet. But estimates do, and we want to make sure that that gets carried over. And so I think we want to add that. So if we add that, and it is optional.
Would the association actually be the inverse, where it has one person, a staffing need has one person, as opposed to a person having a staffing need?
The staffing, so because the foreign key will be on staffing need, it belongs to.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's going to fail. And it's still going to fail because we haven't added the column. Yep. add person to staffing needs. Person ID. Rails DB migrate add G migration. How many times has everyone watching the stream done that?
That'd be cool if it was smart enough to know to do that and then also migrate right after.
Yeah. I assume that's a mistake you've made in the past too.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we got adding a column to staffing needs, person ID, and it's an integer. We could also do belongs. I always forget this. This is fine. Okay, so now we go back to the spec, and that should pass. That should pass. Cool. And now we go back to the spec. It's not going to pass, but it's going to fail with a different error. So we expected a person and we got nothing.
Nice.
So I want to take the estimate person. Cool. So now that we've added the concept of carrying a person over onto the staffing need, there was no concept of a person on a staffing need before. So we need to just earmark in our mind, or I'm going to make a note on a sheet of paper I have next to me, that we need to go back and like display that in the UI and carry that. When you go to schedule to that staffing need, it should pre-populate the person.
I liked that phrase, earmark in your mind.
What else would it be? Earmark in your ear? That doesn't make any sense. Okay, so we've got the creating of the staffing needs. We added the person. So now we want to do when the estimate is hourly billing. I actually just want to, before I do that, I want to check on something. Estimates have the expected work days. And it defaults to the number of days per week. So it'd be 4 by default.
So this actually surprises me a little bit. Is it just like leftover from when estimates were only weekly? That
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we want to be estimates are primarily to do math, not specific days. And so it doesn't keep track of specific days. It's just like, okay, this is half time. So it'd be 2 days per week. And so it can do the math, 2 days per week for this many weeks at this rate would be the total estimate. But there's nothing on staffing needs about a certain number of days per week. That's what I was confirming, that there's nothing on staffing needs for that. So
is that okay?
No.
Okay.
So we're gonna need to add days per week to staffing needs. And when you do that, it'll like because if you go to the schedule and you do a new assignment, it wants to know, okay, what specific days will this work on? So what we'll do is, like, if you set it to 2 on the estimate, then this would carry over, and it would like by default just choose the first 2 days of the week of the person. Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm processing.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that you could have like an estimate for a project that isn't a 4-day billing week. So
yeah, because it would be like if someone's only going to be half, if we know that it's only half time, like or a 1 day a week product manager. So that's what that does.
Okay, and yeah, that makes sense if we are also wanting to keep estimates and staffing needs analogous, even in terms of the data model.
And we wouldn't want to be selling something at 2 days per week or a day per week for someone and then accidentally schedule, not have that carry over and not know, and then schedule someone for a full week. Okay. So as usual, we got a little sidetracked. We can always go back to our specs to figure out where we left off. So when an estimate is for hourly billing, so I'm just going to copy and paste this as a start. So we have a person, a project, the opportunity. And so when we create the estimate, we now, oops. It's quantity. So what I want to do is we're going to put like a bunch of hours on this estimate. And then when it goes to the staffing need, it should convert those hours into weeks based on an average number per week.
Oh, interesting. Is this just like a temporary implementation before?
I don't know.
Okay.
Isn't everything just a temporary implementation?
Yeah, that's true.
So if we do for right now, we'll just do 80, and then the billing type is hourly. So, okay, so now that I've typed 80, I want to, I think commitment model has a workday hours. Yeah. So what I actually want to do to make this math easy is say
65.
I was going to say commitment workday hours. Times, and then we want it to be 8 days. So then that's going to be the number of hours that equals 2 weeks.
Got it.
That's what I was thinking. Is that non-obvious?
No, that's good. That's good, because I think I was biased by knowing that workday hours was 65, so I was trying to think of how to make this math easy. But if like, someone was looking at the spec and didn't go and find that out, then this makes, I think, a little bit more sense.
I'm not expecting this to pass. And how did it fail? So it expected 2 and it got 52 because it created an estimate that a staffing need that lasts 52 weeks. So now we go over here. So I'm going to introduce a method to calculate the weeks. Oh, you know what we can do? We can use a case statement here.
We could.
So when it's weekly, it's just the quantity, but that's oh.
Yep.
And when it's hourly, oh,
Whoa.
the quantity divided by the workdays per hour divided by the expected workdays.
That sounds right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And when it's monthly recurring, that doesn't seem right to me. Monthly recurring. Let's go to the UI. Monthly recurring hours per month for the number of months. So it'd be 12. I'll say it's 12 months, 20 hours per month. We're not going to be able to convert this into a week's estimate.
Really? Could you do like the hours and then multiply that by convert the hours to weeks and then multiply that by the quantity?
Yeah, you're right in terms of the math, but I don't think we would schedule someone that way.
Okay.
And I'm realizing as I say that's actually not. So if an estimate is hourly, we actually don't want to convert it to weeks. What we want to do is when an estimate is hourly, when you go to create an assignment, then the project that was created will be hourly billing. And when a project is hourly billing, you're going to get different. You're going to, instead of being asked expected amount of day, you're going to be asked expected hours.
So maybe this is actually where we back out of trying to do math, and would we want to then update this staffing need model, the data model, to have quantity and billing type?
Yes. The thing is we are going to want we do want to know the number of weeks. So we're not completely wrong with that, because even when it's hourly, it's like number of hours. We do want like an estimate for how long, how long should this assignment be for? And the best thing we have to estimate would be the number of weeks based on the number of hours. And if someone then says, okay, yeah, that's true, but it's not full time, then it's up to them to say, okay, it's not just 2 weeks, it's 10 hours per week for 6 weeks or whatever it'll be. And there's no way, given the information that we have on estimates, for Hub to know what that is.
I see.
So the best thing we can do is give on the staffing need. I think I'm actually arriving at what you give on the staffing need. It's hourly for this number of hours, and then the person would schedule something based on that. And an estimate doesn't need to know whether it's weekly, hourly, or monthly, because that's on the project.
Oh, I see.
So really, we could rename weeks to quantity and just take the quantity.
Yeah.
And when the project is monthly billing, then that quantity is hours per month. Sorry, number of months. Because we also need an hours per month.
So am I understanding that quantity would be more like number of scheduled assignments?
No, because when it's hourly, it's number of
Okay.
total hours. So let's write some specs. So what is changing here is the staffing need. And instead of weeks, it would be quantity, and it still should be greater than 0. Now, what it's doing now, it's computing the end date based on that number of weeks. But if, for example, it was to be quantity and quantity was 40 because the project is hourly, there's a couple different ways of doing that. We could actually, so we still want to know, hey, what's in general, how many weeks should this be for this form?
Oh, I see. Like we want to pre-populate these dates
It's
based
pre-populated
on
with the estimate length. So in this case, right now we're dynamically computing ends on based on that. So if I go to staffing need, you can see we're saying, it's the start date plus the number of weeks and the end of that week. So in theory, we could do the same thing but it's using the hours. And in theory, we can do the same thing if the project were monthly billing, then the quantity on the staffing need is going to be number of months. And so we could project an end date based on the number of months on the need. And so when someone went to go schedule it, it would be like, okay, this is 12 months. The dates would be based on 12 months, but then they would say, well, it's 1 day a week on average for 12 months.
Does the estimate know how to handle calculating the ends on for those different types? Okay.
No. So I think the staffing need is, and it doesn't, I don't think it needs to. So I think the staffing need is the place where that would happen.
Okay. Cool.
So when the staffing need is for 1 week, so this is going to be, this existing spec is when the project is weekly billing. And that's the existing spec. And I'm realizing we could also flip this. Describe ends on, because that's the only change in behavior. When the project is weekly billing, and then the behavior for when it's hourly or when it's monthly.
I'm noticing you have a skipped test here.
Yeah.
45.
When the start date is in the middle of the week. Nice. I'm going to ignore that for right
now. Maybe once we get these skeletons done, what do you think about a break?
That sounds great. And Dimitri asked, does the thoughtbot team work with front-end frameworks? We do. We do a lot of React development, and we do a lot of mobile development as well, both in React Native and native iOS and Android, first-party native iOS and Android. Just, by default, a lot of applications that we work on are going to use the Rails defaults, which will be Stimulus and Turbo. But we do a fair amount of React, oftentimes using TypeScript, as well as those. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. If that's okay with you, Stephanie, 5 minutes.
Sounds good.
I gotta unhighlight this comment. So we'll be back in just about 5 minutes, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the other side of the break. Welcome back.
Yes.
So I don't know about you, but during the break, I was thinking, are we off on a tangent, not on the critical path of this feature? Or is weeks, hourly, monthly billing actually important to have in the first version of this feature?
That's not what I was thinking about.
I appreciate the honesty.
I was like standing up, doing some stretching in my chair. But I'm glad you thought about it.
I think I came to the conclusion that this is important in the first version of the project because even though weekly billing is our default, more and more of the projects that are often starting and ending right now are actually mission control projects, which are hourly billing, and some boost projects that are monthly recurring retainers. Oh, I got to remove the banner.
Yeah, I think I'd also noticed how much of the app revolved around weekly billing that then was breaking a lot of the new things we were trying to introduce when it came to the other types of billing. And if we are committed to, kind of starting to make the app more flexible to those types, it could be good to pursue now.
Yeah. Okay. So we are resuming back here when the project is hourly billing. No, it returns the date that is the weekly equivalent of the hours per week. I have a big question mark in my voice as I'm typing that. Does that make sense to you?
The end date, maybe?
So what are we saying here? We're saying that this would be quantity. And we can do the same thing. Was it default hours per week? No, workday hours. And I actually want to do this like not to the end of a week. So it'll be because the date should be a certain specific day. So if we do 6 and it starts on 10/31, I'm looking at a calendar, but I don't want to put my real calendar on the stream. So that 10/31 is a Tuesday. So that's not. Oh, that's fine because it'll no. And then we say it's basically six days. 1, 2, 3. It should be Wednesday, November the 8th. Am I over complicating this?
I actually had a question.
Yeah.
how does a project's end date factor into this? Like, I guess I was thinking about like, oh, we're trying to do all this math, but could we use the project end date, or is
We
that
can't use the project end date because like staffing needs are independent. Like a
okay?
project could be ending a year from now, but we need someone to be on the project for 12 weeks to do a rotation onto the project.
Okay,
So the end date would be in the future.
got it. That's fair. Okay, that makes more sense. Cool. I did not check your math on this. It was kind of breaking my brain a little bit.
I just want to double check estimate. And if we go over to here and we choose hourly quantity. Okay. And then these specs are gonna change. See, what has me pausing here is I'm worried this is too clever for a date that is almost certainly not actually the date that a person would use when they're doing this. Because there's too much context here. Like this is 52 hours, right?
Yeah.
And what we're doing is we're just saying like, well, okay, if it was full time, then it would be these 6 days. But if we have 52 hours on a project, the way that we do projects that are billed hourly, that almost certainly doesn't mean that, because if we're working full time on a project, then we're going to bill weekly for the project.
Okay. Well, why don't we use a quantity that is more realistic?
52 would be realistic for an hourly billing project, but what that would probably mean is it's like 10 hours per week spread out over the course of a month.
Oh, because they're not working full time.
Right.
Oh, that's tough. Because then you then have to know about assignments a little bit, right?
Yeah, and I think that that's where like not only that, but you need to know information which is actually not baked into the estimate. Right? The estimate has an hour it's billed hourly, or it's a Rails developer working hourly. We could even do like 100 hours for $150 an hour. And then because it could be what would happen now is it would be like in the description field, it would be like, split across, or like it could even be 30 hours for the first week, then 5 hours of support.
Yeah. Okay, I'm following
after that, right?
So right now with the like to do in Basecamp, a person needs to like calculate and kind of do the use the knowledge.
And they would look at this
have,
description in order to do it.
So I guess in that case, and then they have to figure out an end date from there, like they're kind of doing that in their brain. Would it be better to not pre-populate it and just kind of keep that if that's the workflow that people have in trying to predict what it would be too complicated.
Yeah, I sort of feel like that's the case. Because what's then, if we're calculating it, then like, and it's most likely not going to be right, that increases the likelihood that we pre-populate it with something that's not right and someone doesn't notice.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just frustrating because it's like, oh, this person was scheduled for 1 week for 52 hours, for 40 hours, when we really need that spread across 10 hours per week. And you got to delete it and put it back.
Yeah. Kind of think that goes back to that original question you posed when we came back from the break of like, are we going down a rabbit hole here trying to make a thing that isn't actually what the users need?
Yeah. So what is important, though, is that when it comes to looking at the staffing need, you know, hey, this should be for 40 hours. And so, but then in terms of the end date, you're going to have to figure that out yourself.
Cool. Okay,
And,
so we want to keep quantity and then maybe just scrap calculating an end date.
Yeah, and staffing needs don't yet have a note, and so maybe we should think about is carrying over the description. Okay.
Cool.
So that means that will ends on be nil when a project is hourly billing?
Yeah, I like that.
And when it's monthly billing, it'll also be nil. Now, I happen to know that when the end date is empty, it's going to default to the end of the week on that form. But again, that is a later problem, I guess. I like this. I feel good about this solution because we also we're already introducing a lot of functionality that streamlines things all at once. And if we end up doing something that's not like, I'd rather base it based on real world usage and feedback than just making guesses. I think this. What makes a project be monthly billing is not the billing type.
It's the weekly rate being 0. I was working.
Hey, you knew it.
I was working on something related and was confused by
because it is possible for a project to have monthly recurring fees, but then when we work on it, in addition, hourly or weekly fees. That's why it's that way.
Honestly, if we were to introduce a method on project that figures out if it's actually monthly or not, that would help me in my other work.
Yeah, there's nothing here. Oh, monthly recurring revenue.
Okay.
There you go. Use that method.
Yeah, got it.
So when the project is monthly recurring billing and quantity, no. So what if the project is monthly recurring billing, but we're doing a staffing need? That is going. It's still going to be expressed in weeks, and I'll show you how. And this is as much for my benefit as it is yours. um, what's going to happen here is it's going to be okay. We need someone for weekly for 4 days per week for 12 weeks, and the rate of this is 0. That's annoying. And then what you do is you add another estimate. And you would say, well, we have monthly recurring. Actually, no. How an actual person would do this is even if we're going to have a monthly retainer for the work, someone would put weekly at the average weekly rate for 12 weeks.
Okay. So does that mean that we don't actually need a case for this for our staffing needs?
Yeah, because it's going to be weekly.
Yeah. Great.
Okay. We have our pending spec that I was actually accidentally inside of. Undefined method quantity. So that's what we expected. And we're going to rename weeks to quantity. And that's going to fail with a bunch of stuff that needs to be renamed in the staffing needs. Oh, I'm still in that. You know, I almost never use pending specs, but that was one case where we just needed to move on because we couldn't get this to work and we were streaming. So cool. So now undefined method weeks. I'm not going to change. Oh, well, I'm going to change. Whoops. I'm going to change this to quantity, but I'm not going to try to make this pass yet. And I'm not going to change that. Oh, do you know where this undefined method weeks is coming from?
Is it somewhere we're trying to build a staffing need in a spec?
Yeah. My youngest is calling me. This is the first time this has happened.
Do you need a break?
I think I need a break. Yes.
Okay. Cool. I'm just going to wait for Chad to come
Everything is
back.
fine.
Oh, okay, great. I was like, oh no, do I have to take over this live stream on my own?
Okay.
Nice.
So now the quantity rename is passing, but now we're back to this spec. And this is going to fail. And now so if project is it hourly or hourly billing? Yeah, it's hourly billing.
Oh, is that another Copilot suggestion?
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see because I am just using regular, like whatever VS Code auto completes with and with my LSP. And so some of this stuff I'm like, oh, like, I don't know, that looks right. Maybe it knows, but it doesn't.
So actually, I think the way that we want to write this, because it's going to return nil. Oh, there's no. Oh, this is like a matter of preference here.
I know. I was actually going to say, I think I would prefer for it to say if it's weekly.
That's going to be confusing.
I would go with if it's weekly, then that math code, and then I don't know. Like I guess we don't need to add any other conditions.
Right, but there's no method to determine whether something's weekly. It's just we can add it, but it's interesting because the default is weekly. So there's no method to check whether it's weekly. The method is to check whether it's hourly, which is considered the exception. What do you think we should do?
I think we should add a method.
Okay. Let me just verify that that's correct. Yeah. So we'll add this alongside the hourly billing method, and it's weekly billing. That's not project. Oh, wait, is that actually how it's implemented? Oh, no, that's a bad doc string. So okay. So it returns true if the project has a and we should probably add the reverse, right?
Yeah, but on 1.1536, you want weekly for the billing type.
Thank you. I think this is how it used to work. And when the functionality changed, the spec description didn't change. Also, now, this is, it's one of those things where like I like to clean this up when I see it, but I also hesitate to change things that are unrelated to the change that we're making. But if you don't fix those small things, they tend not to get fixed at all. I'm just going to copy this.
Well, I'm glad we fixed it because we saw how Copilot wanted to just like use the thing that already was there, even though it was not accurate. So,
Yeah.
Sometimes those things get propagated like that.
Yeah. I don't know if it's just me, but your audio got a little robot-y there.
Oh, okay. Let me try to fix that.
Okay, so the project expected to respond to weekly billing and it's not there.
I need a minute to fix my audio issues.
No problem. So while this spec runs, I'll just say thanks everybody for watching. We're gonna be on for about 40 more minutes, and then at least me, but potentially me and some other people will be back tomorrow from 2 to 5 U.S. Eastern as well. We're either going to pick this back up or we'll work on a new feature. Not sure yet what we're going to work on, but it will be more Rails development. Okay, our spec is passing. Let's just verify that the negative case, the false case passes. Cool. And as a reminder, if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Or if you see something we're doing wrong or have a different opinion, don't hesitate to put it in the chat, and we'll see it and respond. Okay, so now we're back. If weekly, we introduce this method we wanted to use. And we go back to the spec. So you can see I'm like constantly going from the top level down levels, writing specs each step of the way, then going back up will be the general flow. Oh, it expected it to be blank and it's not.
Am I still a robot?
No, you're better. Well, you're still a robot or a thoughtbot, but
yeah, we both are.
but you sound great.
Okay.
So I just ran this spec that and I was expecting it to pass, and it didn't pass. The project is hourly billing, and I'm asking the staffing need, the ends on, and it should be blank, and it's still something. So
Okay, Can I take a look at this back again?
Yeah. It's possible that this isn't properly. I'm going to go to the factory. We do have a trait, but that's fine. But we might as well change this back to use the trait while we're at it. It's going to be the same thing, though.
Could it be because...
Oh, Stephanie, your audio.
Okay.
The problem, you think the problem's on your side, not my side, right? Okay.
Okay, I'm using my wired mic now.
Okay.
This quality is probably worse, but can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll stick with this for now. I was going to say, does the project need to be saved? Because we are...
No, but it does need to be assigned to the staffing.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That'll do it. There we go.
Nice.
Well, good. Your question led to the actually checking the spec and finding the thing that was missing. And then so now the default is weekly. It's a little weird to just leave that out of the spec and assume the behavior. But that still passes.
Does the staffing need factory have a project association? I was just surprised that was left off of those other tests and they were working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you want to add and make it explicit?
Oh, I don't know. I think so, because we are testing that in particular, and it's not very clear.
So I'll add that as a trait to the factory bot. And I'm realizing I don't know that everyone's using traits, but basically traits are a shortcut you can introduce to factories to do additional things that don't apply to the default. So you can see we have in addition to a project with, you can even do this project takes place in the future. It's not going on now. So what it does is it creates assignments in the future for the project, that kind of thing. Okay. Okay. So now we go back up one level to the level that we were working at before. And we decided to, so when the estimate is for hourly billing, then the project is hourly billing. The opportunity is 1. The estimate is for a bunch of hours. The billing type is hourly. Then I think we just want to carry over the quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say, why is this spec here?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's get rid of it.
And when the estimate is for monthly, that is also just weekly quantity. Okay. So now this is going to fail because we renamed weeks to quantity. And we did it here, but not here. And it looks like I accidentally removed a end. I don't see it. I did it somewhere.
This first context looks good.
It, context, describe. It, context, describe. This should, okay. So what are we missing?
Yeah.
Is it a comma? It, context, describe. Is it a do? Do? Is it something in the factory?
Check the staffing need factory.
I don't think I changed it. Yeah, we haven't touched that in a little while. Context. Do. It. Do. This is weird. Anybody on the stream see it? Coding Wave came in, said, I do backend with Node, and then left. Yeah, today is probably not the stream for you, but we do some people do stream in some Next.js and that kind of thing. So
it looks like it's, I don't know.
Looks fine to me.
We didn't touch the opportunity factory, right?
No.
Okay.
Let me remove this part now. For an opportunity with estimates, creates a staffing need for each estimate. What are we missing here?
No, I'm really not seeing it.
What did I even change? I deleted that.
Can you run it now and see if...
Yeah. Oh, I also deleted that. These are all just changes inside this block. That leads me back to thinking that it's in a factory. I'm going to go into the console and I'm going to FactoryBot dot. I thought I was being smart. I might be load. Nope. That's not going to tell me.
Can you... I thought that you could just call FactoryBot.create in the console without having to load anything.
Yeah. I wanted to load all the factories though.
Oh, okay.
It's not going to be it.
If you still wanted to check out the factories, we could also try just creating these factories that we have in our spec from the console.
Yeah, but it's coming through as a syntax error.
Yeah. And it wouldn't be in the create staffing needs class, right? It was complaining about the spec specifically.
No, that's a good point. Aha.
Oh no. I had that thought like much earlier, but the failure was it was specifically pointing out the spec file. So I thought
Thank you, Stephanie.
I thought that. I don't know. It was still surprising. Cool.
So we're just carrying forward the quantity now. Okay. So we expected the staffing need to respond to weeks with 0 arguments. So that becomes quantity. Cool. I'm just going to run the whole file. Okay.
Great.
So I could be wrong, but I think we might be at the point now where what we set out to do is working, and we should be able to actually do it. but we have more things we need to change from weeks to quantity. So I'm going to run the feature specs that we have covering this feature. And that should fail because the UI is going to be it's called scheduling staffing needs. So you can see even these specs use weeks throughout them. So we can do here, we can just do a find it. No, actually. Because I think there's going to be strings for weeks that we. Yeah, see, we still want that to say 2 weeks when it is a weekly billing project. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, cool. Yeah. And then I think we can add a spec here for so the scenario is the project is hourly billing, and it should say, instead of like 2 weeks, it should say 2 hours.
Shall we run the file?
Yeah. That's a good call, though. We have more stuff that's already broken, so before making the additions, we should change. And this, when we do this, I think we'll probably want to move this into like probably a method on the model, because I noticed there was already a method on the model. Found 2 elements matching visible CSS section. Oh, the comments. The comments were added, and probably just didn't finish making that spec change to accommodate, unfortunately. That's also very generic, so we don't want to do that anymore. I'm actually not sure we need this within at all here, because these things being on the page are all fine. I'm wondering whether it was there because it's not unique. No? Okay. Cool. Comfortable with that for now.
Sounds good.
So now let's run this full feature file. I think it's going to pass. We'll see. And there might be a few more places we need to change weeks, but I'm not sure. Yeah, looks like there is. The edit. This is going to have, I notice another failure about the section. So this failure has to do with the comment mailer, but this one is the section. You can remove that. So I have a couple of notes here of things that we need to do. I'll definitely this time so I like to leave things with a failing spec. I'm just looking at the clock and we have 15 more minutes, and I was just thinking ahead and then thinking out loud whether we're actually going to have a failing spec at the end of this. And if not, then the alternative to that is leave notes on the ticket about where I'm leaving off.
Yeah.
And so if we don't have failing specs that are key for where we're leaving off, then I will definitely do that. Unpermitted parameter. So this is it. I should say out loud, like, it may seem like, boy, you're just banging away at this, but this is one of the reasons why having tests is good, because when you have good coverage, you have confidence in the specs and you can just keep on running them, and they're going to keep identifying the things you need to change, and you can get in this flow of making sure that it's happening, or that it's passing, and then when it passes, you've got them all. So we have a separate failure here, comments, and the failure is that we expected the comment mailer to be called one time, and it wasn't at all, which is an interesting. Oops. So when what the behavior here is when someone comments on a staffing need, the person leaving the comment should not be notified. And the person who is being staffed
I'm seeing on 154, because we just added that association with staffing
Right.
need in person. So
yeah, that's interesting. Do you think I think maybe I wrote this spec based on wanting to end with a failing spec about the next thing that I needed to do? We never ran the specs fully when we started today to see where the failure was.
yeah.
I bet that's total. It sounds like something I would do. Blame Chad Patel 1 month ago. Manually mark staffing needs as done, and I added that. Okay, that is what I did. So we can make that spec pass. Yeah, we can do that in 10 minutes.
Yeah, let's do it.
We should commit. We haven't commit like this entire time. What were we doing?
We went on a lot of different.
Yeah.
We went on a journey in this last 3 hours.
What we did was we made staffing needs flexible to hourly billing. Oh, but the primary thing was we create staffing needs from opportunity estimates. Okay. So the way commenting works and who should receive a notification is the item that you're commenting on. Staffing needs are subscribable, and subscribable is a concern, and it gives you subscriptions and subscribers, and people can unsubscribe, so active subscribers. And so we have a collection of subscribers. And then the comment mailer just takes in a comment in a person. So if we look at like, I think it would be comments controller. What it does is it says for the comment, who are the people to notify, and for each people to notify. So mail them. The comment model has a people to notify, and that is the commentable people to notify, commentable the active subscribers minus the person making the comment. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that the staffing need subscribers includes the person who's essentially tentatively scheduled.
So you're adding them as a subscriber?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are two ways of doing that. There's by editing the staffing need, which we actually don't have one, so we can't edit it. By editing the staffing need, you would be able to tentatively... No, wait. No, the only way to do that... No, okay. Sorry, I'm not thinking out loud, and I apologize.
No. Can I try
Yeah.
to pick up where you left off? I thought we had talked about we would like carry over tentative people from estimates onto staffing needs, but we did not get that far in terms of functionality, or did we?
We did. Create staffing needs does set the person on that.
Sweet. So in our spec, can we just assume that an estimate is already associated with a person? Or like set it up to be that way?
Yeah. So this would be person, and I'll say so this is not going to pass because we're not doing anything to add that person as a subscriber. And I'm just, so the question is, do we want that to happen in a callback? And I think the answer, my default answer to that question nowadays is no. But this goes back to what I was saying before. There are actually two places where if you can edit once, so the person can be set on a staffing need when the staffing need is automatically created from the estimate and someone was tentatively scheduled. But if you can then also change the person on a staffing need by editing the staffing need, then that would be a second place where that could happen and the person should be subscribed. And if we're doing things in multiple places, that is an indicator that we might want to do a callback, even though sometimes I would default to doing it in the controller. But the thing is that I sort of don't want to support editing a staffing need to change the person that's on it, because that doesn't show up anywhere. It's the estimates that show up as tentatively scheduled. So they should carry over to the staffing needs. And if at that point you're going to change who's actually scheduled on the project, then you do that when you're filling the staffing need.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And what you had just said about, like, if you weren't using a callback, you would do that in the controller. But because we're creating staffing needs from that background job, seems like a callback would actually be the way to go.
Either that or we do it in the job.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Let's add a spec for it happening in this spec, and then we can decide where it should best actually happen.
Okay.
So what we want to is that the staffing needs first subscribers to include
I think you want the second spec. Did I lose you? I see you're trying to talk, but I don't hear anything. You want to just keep going, that's fine.
Well, that was annoying. Sorry.
I hear you now. Was it you this whole time?
This time,
Okay.
unfortunately. It's annoying. Okay, let's
Try to wrap it up.
let's wrap it up. Let's just regain our bearings after that technical glitch, and then wrap it up. So what we were doing was we were adding to, and you rightly commented that it needs to be in the other spec. And this will fail. Cool. It expected, but there are no subscribers. Okay, let's commit. Failing spec for adding person as subscriber. Okay. Well, thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you, Chad. This was a lot of fun.
And thank you everybody for watching. As I mentioned, at least me will be back streaming tomorrow from 2 to 5 US Eastern. But there's another group of people who are in the Europe, West Asia, Africa region of thoughtbot designers and developers. They're going to be starting at 9 in the morning US Eastern, if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow. So we've got a lot of streaming tomorrow, probably like 6 total hours. We're becoming an actual TV station. I'm super psyched. And so they're going to be doing some, I think 11D implementing a site that's an 11D. No, wait, I'm wrong. They're going to be working on a Ruby gem. So if you want to see some Ruby developers working on a Ruby gem, tune in for that. And then later on the day, I'll be back with this Rails development. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you again, Stephanie. And Stephanie is the co-host of the Bike Shed podcast, bikeshed.fm. If you're not familiar, that's our web development podcast. It's awesome. You should listen if you don't already.
Thanks for the plug.
And as usual, if you're looking for people to help with your Rails app or any kind of web or mobile design and development, please get in touch. You can just go to thoughtbot.com and click on Let's Get Started. Thank you again, and see you tomorrow.
Bye.